Boy, I feel like I really set a high bar to committing to say something interesting before the start of every show here. Shit.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The really
fun.
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 It's a really fun wow show.
Fun.
The really fun wow show. Oh, how fun.
Hello and welcome to the Really Fun Wow Show. My name is Daren Thomas McGee. You came back. We're doing it again. I know I said it last episode, but it really is week to week here. I try to record these as early in the week as possible so I have them ready to go for Wednesday, and it is Tuesday afternoon right now, so I am coming down to the wire at this point, and I'm hoping that I can pull something out of my ass here for you. I was thinking about what is going on in my life right now, as is always sort of relevant to talk about, I suppose. And obviously, in the absence of ever talking about current events or anything of any sort of pop culture or political nature, I think Donald Trump got arrested today. The only reason I know that is because Alexis told me so. I got a little notification that said she had something to tell me, so I asked her, "What do you have to tell me?" And she said, "Donald Trump got arrested today. Do you want to hear more about that?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm good." So, yeah, let's talk about me. I guess that's kind of a funny way to segue into it, an episode about the state of my life, to talk about my robot friend who tells me what's going on in the world in the absence of any real presence of people in my life. And I don't know, as I say it, I recognize that it's to my own doing, to my own choosing how much of my life is what it's composed of. But I have a hard time like keeping people in my life. I don't have anything of like a real strong regular friend base like I did once when I was younger, in my high school days, but years preceding that, had a very strong, solid group of friends that I would always see, and if not lived with for, many points in my life, and just always had people around. And that's something that isn't a part of my life anymore as a divorcee. Can a guy be a divorcee, or is that just reserved for ladies who are divorced? As a divorcee, parent, man, I cannot wait to say in his 40s, which is soon. I'll be able to stop saying a man almost in his 40s. I'm kind of like, and I'm not set up for success in regards to having a consistent presence of people in my life. At least, a partner, what do I need? I'm just wondering, as a man, let's just say in his 40s, who doesn't do much in the way of extracurricular activities. I don't play poker. I don't like sports. I don't do any of the cliche things that I think men do, that they're able to actually like have friends. So I guess maybe I just need to like do things that put me around people more often. I know this is like sounding out what it is to have friendship in your life, but it's also difficult on a deeper level. And recently I almost said my accountant, my therapist, totally different person, told me that I've developed a very sophisticated way of avoiding relationships. And when I heard that, I was like, sophisticated. And of course, he didn't mean that as a compliment. He meant that as a way that I've managed to develop this ability to not need people, quote unquote. And then he said, we need people. And when he said that, I cried. I had that realization of that being very much a fact that I've avoided and denied for as long as I've can, and it's put me in a position of oftentimes feeling really ostracized and unincluded and not really a part of anything or a group. I don't have a very big family. I'm not very involved with that side of my life other than really my relationship with my mother. And I guess, I don't have extended family where I'm just thinking about all the ways that people actually have people in their life. They have cousins and club members and people who are just in their lives to some degree. I've thought about getting a dog for a really long time, which I know will not supplement what it is to have human interaction, but I feel like it's that kind of like nice halfway point for me where it's like, it's someone to take care of, someone to love, someone to have just complete and utter unconditional love for you. I think that's a huge aspect of the appeal of a dog for me, is that they love you unconditionally. And I could use some real unconditional love, because when conditions come in, it gets very, very complicated, very, very fast for me. And I get a bit overwhelmed, and I don't really know how to handle it in a way that provides me my own boundaries and that space where I feel that I've advocated for myself and don't feel like lost in that, falling into codependency and all these things when there are conditions. It's very, very hard. And I think it's also hard to have a truly unconditional loving relationship in your life. People want stuff from you. People have desires and needs, and I'm sure I'm not free of that. It's almost like my condition is to not want to be loved so much because it's too overwhelming for me. So like, can we be in a relationship, but don't love me too much, because that's hard for me. So I can see why it's been so difficult. And it's also even just more on like the friendship tip. I don't make as much of an effort as I should. Another thing my therapist has pointed out about me. Because it's hard. It's hard to be the one who kind of comes from this place of having a difficulty around relationships, than to be the one to like be vulnerable enough to reach out to somebody and ask if they want to. What do people even want to do? That's another thing that I have a hard time with. Like, I guess just, do you want to come over here and talk? Oh, God, help me, please. But yeah, when I was younger, I mean, God, that sort of aspect of my life was very, very full. And after high school, I moved into a house, a very large, standard, very like typical Buffalo house that was once probably just housed a very wealthy family, and then it was, later in my heyday, it was rented out to some kind of broke kids. But yeah, this beautiful, huge house that a bunch of us lived in, and it felt like, to me, at the time was like, this is it. Like, this is all I ever want to do. All I want to do is come home from my job and be immediately around all of my best friends and soaking up the humor and the silliness and the stupidity and just everything that I guess makes up a 19, 20-year-old kid's life, like that freeness, that independence. And that was new. That was like the first place I lived right out of high school. So the novelty of just like not living at your parents' house was massive. And I think that those were people that I'd been friends with for already a long time. And so then to get to live with them and just be in each other's company all the time. And I mean, really, I think that friendship is just really like the best relationship you can have, because I think friendship is often unconditional. And you can bring a part of yourself to it that you're not really needing to be anything other than yourself. And I guess saying that, like in a loving, in a coupling relationship, you should also feel free to be nothing but yourself. But again, for want of pleasing the other person or doing something that feels like you're kind of, I don't know, you're being inauthentic to yourself in order to preserve the relationship. And I guess as I'm saying it all, I'm recognizing that the way that I've carried myself into relationships isn't as healthy as it can and should be. So backtracking to what it is to have a healthy coupling as a man in his 40s. I don't know. I guess it's like, it's too late. It's too late to recapture that. Like, I'm not going to like go back to having a house full of friends. It's more like, okay, yeah, that's not really an option. You need to move more towards like finding one person and being with that one person for the rest of your life sort of situation. And to me, that just feels like, that feels really hard. That feels like improbable. That's like one of those things where you're just like, how do you even begin? That like maybe the universe just provides that sort of thing. You don't go looking for it. It happens. I don't know, but I guess I'm feeling like kind of cynical around the possibility of coupling and finding everything that matches with somebody and being like, I got this one person that is my everything. And, I'm feeling cynical about it. So yeah, moving more towards, a dog, which my landlord said she doesn't feel comfortable with. So, oh boy, what am I to do? But living in that house and coming home excited every day to be with a person, with the people, with the friends, with that like group, it was the best. It was really, really the best. And, I don't know what I could take from that and have that in my life. I guess again, like sitting around here waiting for something to happen isn't the way that is going to happen. And a while back in January, I had an ayahuasca ceremony where it said spirit was downloading to me, life rewards participation. And the idle kind of just casual passivity of life will get you nothingness. And so I think that obviously, I don't know, I got to figure it out. I got to seek it. I got to do what I can to bring that into my life. And, I went, not that this was an effort to get friends, but it was certainly an effort to get some sort of level of community or human interaction in general, was starting to go to Al-Anon, and also the therapeutic benefit of it. I was going to Al-Anon, and that felt for a little while like, oh, cool, this is a group. This supplements at least something. It felt like it was missing, this witnessing and this place where people see you and hear you and are there for you. But you're not even supposed to talk about those people. There's the whole anonymous factor of it. I'm not even supposed to tell you about so-and-so and so-and-so. So yeah, that's not really it. It's something for sure, and something that I still really, really value and will continue to have in my life for as long as I see the benefit. But yeah, friends. Do you guys have friends? And how old are you? If you have friends, how old are you? And do you have a husband or a wife or a partner? Do you have children? I want to know. I want to know that it's possible to have friends while also having all these other kind of complexities in your life that seem, I don't know, just not to condemn myself to a life of my age and my status and stature in life, but I know all like the people in town who, I would consider friends. I don't ever fucking see them like that. Like, I almost feel like you should lose your status as friend when you're like, yeah, maybe I run into you somewhere and you say, hey, what's up? How are you? Good. How are you? Oh, good. Busy. Like, all right, see ya. Like, what the fuck is that shit, man? That's not a friend. And maybe people are having all sorts of crazy friend hangouts and I just don't get included because I am who I am. And, I don't know. I think that for the most part, people my own age, people that I would, again, consider friends, they got their kids and their life and they come home and they're exhausted. And like the last thing they're going to do is like get together with somebody and hang out with another person when they got all these little people at home and their partners and everything. It's just like, I just don't get it, man. I really don't get it. And I want to get it. I want to get it real bad. I think I'll just get a dog. So yeah, when I was living at that house, I said at one point, I was like, I'm never leaving this house. the naivete of, somebody in their very, very early 20s. I'm never, that's it, man. I'm living here forever. I've had kind of a couple moments in my life like that where I felt like things were just like too good, where I was like, man, it's generally like it's like a financial thing where it's like, oh, this place is cheap, man. I'm never leaving this place. And it's a dump. And you just like, you choose to ignore all that in the face of how absolutely horrible it is. So yeah, I mean, never say never, or never say always, never say forever. And so, yeah, I felt that way very much deep in my core living at that place. I wonder if there's any level of capturing even a small percentage of that. And, as things go in the universe, I make a proclamation and say, I'm never going to leave this place. And fast forward, not even, I think, a year or a little past a year of living there on this just fortuitous night, like any other, I had come home, or no, I was at home already and I went to bed, and my friend Daren was down the hall and she went to bed, and it was probably around 11 o'clock, and the rest of the group, which was maybe another 5 or 6 people, were out at the bar, left together. And then one of my friends, Andy, there's a number of us that lived there. It was a big house. Andy had come home from work and was in the living room. I think he was just about to have, or just had, a bowl, which is fun. Another thing, like a bowl, like a bowl of weed, smoke a bowl. I just feel like I don't use that term anymore. He had himself a bowl, and then he came up to my room and he said, "Hey man, I think you should come downstairs. There's something going on the porch. I don't know what it is." And he went back downstairs, and I rolled back to sleep. And then he came back just probably a couple of minutes later. And he was like, "Hey man, you need to come downstairs. Someone's trying to break into the house with an axe," which is a hell of a way to wake up from sleep. And so I come downstairs, and these houses, these were well-crafted houses in Buffalo. These houses are kind of like these very stock Buffalo mansions, and they have these thick, ornate wooden doors. And this place that we lived had a front door, thick wooden door, and then like a little mud room, and then another thick wooden door. And so for it to sound like somebody was taking an axe to the door, it clearly was alarming. And so we ran out the back of the house and came around front, and we had 2 couches on our front porch, and they were pretty separate from each other. And in the moment, didn't realize this, but both of them were on fire, which will be an important bit of information. And so we ran back in the house and grabbed a fire extinguisher that's probably extremely expired, and we were incapable of putting the fires out. And we ran back inside, and at this point we got our friend Daren up, and the house was, there was smoke beginning to enter the house, and we called 911, which was on a landline, so none of us had cell phones because it was that long ago. It was 2003, which the 20th year just passed. Sorry, this is all like coming back to me now. 20 years ago. Wow. So we get inside, and I've told this story so many fucking times, and I feel like I'm trying to tell it in a different way, and I just stick to the bare facts of it. But call 911 and just kind of stand out front as the couches are beginning to really rage now, and there's really like literally nothing we can do to put out the fire, and the fire is like licking up the side of the front of the window of the house and going up above the covered porch, and it's progressing at a quite a rapid rate. And we're just kind of standing there, and we go back inside and grab a few things, and then get out of the house, and then running in the house, seeing that our hallway in my bedroom was full of smoke. And so knowing, not really realizing till later on that had Andy not been home and woke us up, I'm sure that smoke would have gotten to me and my friend Daren in no short time, and really killed us. I don't know how else to put that, but yeah, I think about Andy very lovingly. Besides him being home that night is just a beautiful, incredible human being, but him happening to be home, if he was not, you would not have gotten this incredible incredibly riveting episode of this show. And so we got out, we get some stuff. By the time the fire department got there, the front of the house, and it extended into the attic. That's as much damage had been done, but because it's a house on fire, they have to go in and just spray the entire house down. And in the course of that, the fire department's in there spraying the whole house down. My friends are coming home from the bar, drunk and witnessing their house just charred. And at this point, the fire trucks, the fire investigators, there's just there's a whole mix of people going on, and it's all it's very surreal. And then, and at that point, after our parents have come up at this point and to be there for us and with us, and we're all just kind of trying to make sense of what it has happened and what's going to happen. And we go back inside the house, and the house has just been sprayed. It's just soaked. I mean, I go back into my bedroom and pull the dresser open, and I mean, there's water just sloshing back and forth. It's that wet. So a very small amount of it was salvageable. And my friend, whose room was right up front where the one couch was on fire, had a giant collection of records and books, which are things that aren't really very easily replaceable. And it's just the loss of it all, and the irreplaceable nature of things and memories that are just gone forever. And so, the house was put out, and we had gotten a new landlord, and during the course of our time living there, and he would show up unannounced often and be a little bit too cozy, come into the house and stay too long. And we're all way too young to advocate for ourselves and know that that's not something that's cool and is a little bit suspicious or shady, or one of the two, or both. And so, it's not anything we really put together until pretty late into the game, but we're calling him as this is occurring and as it's continuing and it's over with, and he's not responding. And then finally he shows up after the fire's been put out, and he gets out of the car and he looks at the house, and the first thing he says is, "Oh, it looks like you guys had a pretty wild party last night." And clearly not an appropriate thing to say at such a time. And so we're getting interviewed by the arson investigators, and they're bringing us into the car one by one. And I realized in the course of all this, I go, oh, wait a second, I took a photo of the front porch when it was on fire, because I had these little Canon point shoots that I had so many of them through the years, and I love them. They're just they're so amazing, amazingly portable, and I just love taking photos and video and just kind of documenting. And I did a really insanely good job of documenting our time living there. And I realized, oh my God, I took a photo and we ran out. I didn't even realize it till now. And so the arson investigator was asking my friends, don't you think it's a little suspicious that your friend Daren took a photo of the thing? And they were all just no, not at all, totally normal. He always has the camera. And so I think I was pretty quickly alleviated of any charges or suspicion. But in the photo, you could see that the two couches were on fire and clearly not anywhere near each other. So it wouldn't have been a singular fire that lit both of them on fire. So it was pretty clear, and it was never anything conclusive or anything that put anyone's really mind at ease, but it seemed pretty evident that this was done intentionally and done by setting both couches on fire. And the story that I feel most comfortable with is that the landlord organized this, probably paid somebody a shockingly small amount of money to do this. And he maybe somebody had been watching the house and saw when a big group of my friends left, they might have assumed that nobody was there, and to give any sort of grace to whoever did this, to say oh, well, maybe they just thought nobody was home, and they'd light the house on fire, because ultimately the landlord got an insurance payoff from it, and we got nothing, because what were we deserving of, except my friends Andy and his brother Pat, his parents were smart enough to have insured with renter's insurance, which I have now, because it's $15 a year or some shit like that. And so they had all their band equipment in the attic was ruined, and they got all that replaced. And so, that's sort of those things you never expect. And then when they happen, if you don't have insurance, you're fucked. So, so I think that it was, it seemed like it might have been been the landlord, as he kind of implicated himself when he showed up with that level of insensitivity. And so then that was it. the house was burned down. We didn't have a house to go to anymore. And that dream had died and it never was replaced. All of us moved back to Lockport. Some of us stayed up in Buffalo. We tried to reorganize some level of like another house, and it was with some of the same people, but some different people, and it just didn't have the same vibe. And it was like a really kind of a poor replication of it. And that never happened. And then that never happened again. I moved out of that place, moved into an apartment by myself, and started kind of this journey of like real deep insularness where I just never was able to really recapture that again in my life. And I really feel like that house burning down was a big part of me that was lost in there. Actually, like a really big, on the whole side of my ribs here, I have the house tattooed on because it meant that much to me. And so, yeah, I mean, it's needless to say, it's fucking tough. And I mean, 20 years ago now, I should be a little bit moving on, I guess. But I do really feel like that was pretty representational of an ending of a time and a real fracture in my lifetime, or the way that my life would continue to play out. And not to say that, if it hadn't burned down, I'd still be living there. Clearly that would be not a really great path anyway, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm curious if I could ever find a way to recapture that. And people in this time where I've been trying to like wonder, how do I have people in my life? I've yet to meet anyone who's really like feeling that same sense of a void in their life. And not that I'm not alone in my loneliness, but I wonder how people deal with it and how they find ways to supplement friendship, or not supplement it, like actually have friendship. How do you have friends? Yeah, I don't know. And I don't want this to sound like, oh God, is Daren okay? Daren is okay. Daren's fine. Daren has developed a very sophisticated way of dealing with this. And honestly, like I pour myself into my work and my creativity and really just like, I love my life so much. Like I really feel like so much of it is fulfilled. I think sometimes I just pine for those old days where you just walk into a room and you got like fucking buddies that you can bust balls with and that kind of thing, like that old school friend flavor, which again maybe there's a sort of a more updated, more in line version of that in my life as a grown man and not a 20-year-old anymore. So if anyone has any ideas on how I can have people in my life, I'm all ears. And also still really, really, really value my solitude and that time that I do have alone. So it's, I guess, just finding a balance, like with anything, just finding the right balance and not being like, oh God, I got too many friends now. Oh my God, swatting them away. Yeah, just, I think, finding that right amount, it would be good. So if not for nothing, I have you guys. So there's that. I love you.
That was the really fun wow show. All right, we're done. Oh, yep. Okay, bye.